Welcome back to the Project Podcast. I'm your host, Connor Lewis, and today we are back with Carter Jones, and we are talking about the triumph that is F1 the movie. Carter, how are you today, man?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk about what we have in our episode today. So yeah.
So recently, we both saw F1. I saw F1 twice. You saw it once, right?
Yep.
And this is an important movie, not just because it's a sports movie and we talk about sports on here, but because it's important for movies in general. It's made over 110 million in America in less than 2 weeks, which is really great. It's projected to make around 300 million. Actually at this point, it's made about 300 million worldwide, which is great because obviously F1 is a very worldwide product. It's something that's more popular in Europe, I would say. If I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I
hmm
think that it's something that's still growing in America. It's projected to make 500 to 600 million in the box office when it's all said and done. Obviously, Superman and Jurassic World are looking to slow that down. Carter, did you like F1 the movie?
I loved it. In recent history, I haven't actually gone to the movie theaters to watch movies. But this was one that I decided to go watch, and I thought it was really good. I think the only thing that people ever say about it that's not great is the fact that they kind of have like an overplayed storyline of kind of like the mentor, older um, figure in it, and then like the younger kind of more unexperienced person, and that's between Sonny and JP. But I think honestly, like they still played it out really well, and I think the way they did it was great as well. I thought the movie was really good, and like the cinematography of it was perfect. I thought that was like one of the highlights for me.
I mean, this movie had a big budget. I mean, people are saying it's around 250 million. Apple's saying it's a little lower than that just because they don't want it to seem like a flop, just in case. Um, this movie is beautiful. It is. This movie's not trying to reinvent the wheel. Basically, it's doing a storyline that's a tale as old as time. It's the old guy coming back, like you said, to teach the young guy and show him up a little bit. But it's not trying to do anything special. There are movies. If you want something different, there are movies that exist like that. There's been plenty of race movies in the last few years. Ford versus Ferrari is one that came out about 6 years ago. That very different from this movie. It's more about the nitty gritty business stuff of race car driving. But F1 the movie is a spectacle. It's same director as Top Gun Maverick. The director also did Tron, which is obviously an older movie, but these movies have high spectacle. They are exciting. The story is supposed to be like the second piece to it. It's supposed to be something you should watch in theaters, just like Top Gun Maverick was. If you saw that movie in theaters, which I did many years ago, you'll remember that that movie was special because it's something that if you didn't see in theaters, you were missing out. It felt like a real event.
hmm
It was like watching an
Yes.
Avengers movie in theaters. Um, how do you think this movie compared to Top Gun Maverick overall? Obviously, same director. Tom Cruise was supposed to be in it originally, but then they decided to switch lanes, go to Brad Pitt. How do you think those two movies compare?
Well, with the Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise thing, I actually think that Brad Pitt probably would have played the role better than Tom Cruise.
Mm.
Although I'm a big Tom Cruise guy regardless, but comparing the two movies, it's really tough. Like honestly, it's such a toss up. I might have to go with Formula One because I like am more into that type of realm of like what the movie is like with Formula One than I am with like kind of like the flying of planes and Top Gun Maverick. But Maverick was such a good movie. I remember watching that in theaters as well. That was such a good movie. And all like the I think in both movies the cast members that they had for everybody was like really good. Like and they all played their roles really well. I honestly think that the Maverick characters might have played their roles better, but I think the overall movie of F1 was probably better than Maverick was, in my opinion.
I think that F1's getting a lot of heat lately because they're arguing the characters are sort of underwritten, which I disagree with. Honestly, I think that Sonny Hayes is pretty well defined. I think Joshua Pierce is pretty well defined. The only thing I would say that maybe I didn't love about F1 was I feel like and you can tell me what you think about this. I think kind of the little will they won't they with between Sonny Hayes and I forget the woman's name, but the woman he eventually has that he makes out with eventually in his
Yeah,
hotel. I felt like that might have been a little forced. I feel like you don't really need that in a movie like this.
yeah,
I don't think their chemistry is bad. I think they have good chemistry. I just think that in a movie like this, I think it might just be best to focus on the racing. That's what people are here to see. Again, I don't think it's poorly written or anything like that. I think it kind of makes sense, but it still feels a little bit forced. I'm curious to see what you think about that storyline, that little subplot that this movie has going on.
Yeah, I think it was all right. I think they did it. I think they could have done it better. I think they could have condensed it more. I don't think they needed to make it as much of a thing as it was. But, I think a problem with a lot of sport movies is they don't show enough like in-game stuff or like regardless of what it is. And a movie that I thought could have been really good was Gran Turismo. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think like that's a movie where they could have had more racing, and I think that F1 actually had a good amount of racing. Like there was some, like I would say, I don't know like percentage wise how much the movie was like in the racing scene of it, but I'd say it's more than like a lot of other sports movies when it comes to like them being in game. But I think if you look like the best sports movies of all times, like they have a lot of like scenes in the movie that are from like games. Like Remember the Titans has a lot of in-game or in-practice footage and stuff like that. So I think that that's kind of like a key thing for sports movies. Like people want to see them happen, and I was really glad when I was watching the movie realizing like they're showing real like in race footage because that's like for my liking, I think that makes it a lot better of a movie. So
I agree. I think they did a really smart thing with doing it real races with real audience members
yeah,
before the actual F1 races. I think that was super smart
it's really
by
cool too.
Apple. It is cool, and it makes it feel all the more real. Obviously, it is real. There's real people watching and stuff, but it makes it feel more accurate. There's actually a really quick. I noticed on the second watch, Chris Hemsworth has like a 2 second cameo,
Yeah, I
and I
saw
did
that.
not pick up on it on the first try, but those are the small things you realize is that these are real people watching these races. And actually, the ending where spoiler alert, not really a spoiler because it's kind of obvious, but when Sonny Hayes eventually wins, they filmed two endings because
Too,
they didn't
yeah.
want the audience to know. They had a one where Joshua Pierce wins, and I think that's smart. I think we all kind of figured that Sonny Hayes wins at the end. I didn't think they would go the other direction, but another editing choice they made was originally the movie was supposed to open how it ended, where Sonny Hayes is doing the sand racing.
Hmm.
I watched an interview with the director Joseph Kosinski, and he said that was originally supposed to be the opener instead of the Daytona scene, and we were supposed to open with Brad Pitt doing sand racing. And I eventually Lewis Hamilton, who is one of the producers, obviously one of the greatest racers ever, stepped in. He's like, you should definitely open with NASCAR, and I think it tells us a lot more about Sonny
Yeah.
Hayes as a character. I think originally the scenes were just flipped. I think it was smart though. I think they, looking back, when I watched it the second time, now knowing that, it definitely changed how I saw the movie, especially watching the end scene. Um, I think it was a good move though. I think watching or having Brad Pitt start at NASCAR and you kind of learn a little bit about his backstory. You see the picture of his father, you see all that stuff. I think it's probably more well defined. Um, this movie is already early development for a sequel. F1 the movie 2, which obviously isn't the official title, is already in very early development with Tom Cruise in talks to co-star with Brad Pitt. How do you feel about that?
I'm interested to see like what they're gonna do with that because I don't know like I don't know like there's certain movies that like can have a sequel and there's certain ones that can't, and I'm not sure like what are they gonna do this? Are they still gonna have? I don't know if they're gonna still have Sunny Race. I don't know if they're gonna have him transfer to coaching. I don't know if like I don't know. It's that's like one of those interesting ones where I'd be interested in it, but like I don't want it to be like one of those like super fall off sequels because most of the time the first movie is a lot better than the sequel is. And that's just kind of how it's been throughout a lot of great movies. So
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but back in 1990, we had a movie called Days of Thunder, which is a racing movie about NASCAR. It starred Tom Cruise. He played a character called Cole Trickle from Eagle Rock, California, and I think that he would be reprising his character, which would be very cool as a fan
hmm,
of Days of Thunder. That adds a little bit of a different element to it. I think you have a good point, and I think that it's hard for Lightning to strike twice, especially in something like this that has such a high budget. Apple took a big gamble in this. Their last 4 or 5 movies that they released in theaters all underperformed. They barely turned a profit, any of them. Those were Napoleon, Argyle, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Fly Me to the Moon. I didn't see any of those in theaters, to be honest, and I don't think you did either. I think it's safe to say. Those are more, they didn't have very long runs in cinema, but this F1 movie just changed everything. And I think it proves that people are still interested in going to the theaters if there's something they want to see. Would you agree
Yeah,
with that?
I would agree with that completely. And you're more of a movie guy than I am, and I still like to watch my own movies in like my own aspect, but I think it's kind of like a dying thing, kind of like, online shopping is becoming such more of a thing. Same thing with like you're able to watch movies and stream things at home so much easier. But I think there's a different type of like effect of watching movies in theater, but you can only feel that with certain movies. And I think F1 really immersed that. We talked about Top Gun Maverick before. Like, you're not going to get that same feeling of watching it at home as you do in the theaters. And it's always better to watch it on, you don't need to watch on opening night, but one of the first couple nights it's out because you got more people in the theater. And in my opinion, I like that more. Like, I feel like it makes it more of a better atmosphere when you have a full theater and you have a bunch of people there that are interested in watching the movie. So I think that's kind of like a key thing for good movie theater experiences.
I think you're right. I saw it the Thursday the day before it came out. I saw an early screening on that Thursday. Still a lot of people in the theater. Like, I went to this place in Warwick, Rhode Island called Apple Cinema. Very nice. It has those recliners. It's one of
Hmm.
those theaters. It's super nice, super nice. Saw it early with a friend. Went the next week. I went back, saw it like an afternoon screening. Loved it again. It is a movie you need to see in theaters. It's the way the audio sounds. It's the way that you really feel like you're in the race car when they're showing those scenes, and when the camera like flips and you're like right in
Yeah,
front of
yeah, yeah.
either Joshua Pierce or Sonny Hayes, and you're right in front of them. That's an experience you can only feel in the movies. And I think you're right. I do think you're right. I think that it is a dying thing, but you had movies this year. Minecraft made a lot of money. Obviously, it's kind of a meme, but
Yeah.
I saw it 3 times in theaters, truthfully, and not because it's a great movie, just because it was kind of a thing for people. People really want to see it, and I went with 3 different people to see Minecraft 3 different times, and it was sort of a thing like that. Lilo and Stitch is another thing. I saw it in theaters. I didn't really like it that much, but it made a lot of money. I think it might have almost made more than Minecraft. And then this movie's gonna do great. And then obviously this week, this will come out before, but Superman is coming out in theaters. Something that a lot of people are excited for, including myself as a big Superman fan. Theaters are back, and this is a little off topic, but I think this is just so funny that I had to share. I've been doing my research. Apple has another movie come out in theaters this year. It's called Highest to Lowest. It is directed by Spike Lee, pretty notable person, obviously for his Knicks fandom, but also his great directing ability. Starring Denzel Washington, Ice Spice, and ASAP Rocky.
That's interesting.
Any thoughts on that? Just off the top of your head?
Um,
This
the
is real.
cast
This is
is.
not a joke.
Read me off the cast again. Can you do that?
The main people are Denzel Washington, obviously one of the greatest,
Yep.
Ice Spice,
Okay.
ASAP Rocky. Those are
So,
3 of the main characters in this film.
I don't know how they're gonna mesh. That's the only thing. Denzel is obviously like, he's one of the greats. ASAP Rocky, he has like he has good personality, especially on screen. He's in the music realm. Ice Spice, I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna get from her, but it's interesting. I guess I don't know. It depends on like what the movie's gonna be about and everything like that. So I don't know.
Oh,
That's
one
kind of
more thing.
interesting.
Former LA Laker Rick Fox from the Kobe Shaq team
He's in
is
there
in the
too.
movie. Yeah, he
Okay.
plays himself. So I just looked at the cast quickly to see if there's anyone else added. And the movie has been being shown early already. There's been early screenings for critics. It comes out in August, so only a month away. But yeah, Rick Fox is also like a pretty big role, I guess, in the movie. Um, don't know if that changes anything for you about that, but I wanted to get your take on that because I just think it's so. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just an interesting move by Spike. I don't know how that's gonna play out. I read an earlier review that Ice Spice actually wasn't bad. She was actually like solid. She had a solid performance. So we'll see. To get back to F1, this movie is a spectacle. It is really a Brad Pitt victory lap. Brad Pitt won an Oscar, his first Oscar after people counted him out. back in 2019. I would compare it to Dirk in 2011, where everyone knew Dirk was a Hall of Famer. Then he wins the NBA title, and now he's definitely one of the greats. Same thing with Brad Pitt in 2019, and this is him. He's not going to win an Oscar for this movie. Obviously, there's plenty of good and great performances that are arguably better than him, but I think this is just his victory lap to just show people he still got it. I mean, he's like what 60, and he still looks like
He's
he's like
old, yeah.
45, and it's like I don't even know what to say. It's like I don't even know. My biggest thing, and I want to get your take on this, is Damson Idris, who played Joshua Pierce. I thought he was great.
Yes.
He was in a TV show called Snowfall, which is kind of small because it was on cable. It wasn't on one of the major streaming services. He is in talks to play Black Panther.
Thousand
Possibly.
percent. Thousand
There's
percent.
definitely a big rumor that Damson Idris could play Black Panther. I want to get your take on that.
Well, this is actually pretty good because originally the reason I wanted to watch the F1 movie most was because of Damson Idris. I watched Snowfall. One of my good friends that I talked to, he got me into the show. It's amazing. I highly recommend it. Um, but on top of that, it's also kind of funny. My favorite superhero of all time is Black Panther, and I loved like the Black Panther movie. In my opinion, and some of my friends' opinions that watch Marvel with me, is a top 10, borderline top 5 Marvel movie in its prime of all time. And I think like Black Panther is such a interesting character. He's, in my opinion, one of the most underrated characters because, he's one of the most wealthy people in all of like MCU history and stuff like that. And his character can only be played by very certain people. But I think Damson Idris is ready for that role, and I've been waiting for him to get bigger roles. I've seen him in two things as an F1 and Snowfall, and he's killed both of the roles. So I'm hoping for him to get more shine. And to follow this up, when you get a second, I have a little blind ranking top 5 with Brad Pitt movies. I don't, how good are you when it comes to Brad Pitt movies? Do you know?
I am great. I know.
Okay.
I think I've seen the most. I would say
Okay, well, you let me
most.
know when you're ready, and I have my list for you. And
You want to do it right now? We'll do it right now.
I'm ready.
We
All
can
right.
do a Brad Pitt blind ranking right now. I didn't see this coming. Let's do it.
I know, I kind of just thought of it on the fly. So, all right, to begin with, starting off, we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Ho ho! Many people know Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my favorite movie ever, so it's just an easy one for me. Absolutely,
Okay.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at one.
Okay. Number 2, we're gonna go with Bullet Train.
I This is a hot take. I don't love Bullet Train that much.
Okay.
I think it's super fun. I think it's a great time. I've seen it a couple times. Not a lot of substance going on there. It's not like super deep. It's not really. There's nothing really to the movie. It's like a Marvel movie. It feels like, but like one of the weaker ones. I'm gonna
Mhm.
put it at 4 just in case because I don't know what would be much worse. But I'm gonna put it at 4 because I know there's good stuff.
Okay. Next, we're gonna have Formula One.
I should have saw that coming. I'm not gonna. I think it's better than Bullet Train. I think it's a better
Okay.
movie than Bullet Train. I think Brad Pitt's better in Formula One than he is in Bullet Train. I'm gonna put it at 3,
Okay.
and like regrettably probably it's probably a bad move by me, but yes, we'll do 3.
Okay. Well, we got 2 more. Trying to think which one I should give to you first. I think I'm gonna go with. I'll throw Fight Club at you first.
Oh man,
Yep.
you're putting me in a tough spot here because
Mm-hmm.
I regret putting Bullet Train at 4 because I know you're probably gonna throw something pretty good at me. I don't know if we're looking at like we could look at Ocean's 11 or I don't know. I'm gonna bite the bullet and I'm gonna put Fight Club at 2.
Okay. Your 5th spot for this list is Moneyball.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
I know. Well, it's a tough list. I mean,
I
all
wish
those movies are great movies.
if
Personally,
I put if
I
I
actually
put
I liked Bullet
hmm,
Train a lot. I think
okay,
it probably would have been 5th regardless compared to these
yeah.
movies. But I mean, Bullet Train, in my opinion, was a better movie than I expected it to be. I watched it like a couple years ago, and that was a really good movie. So,
I did see it on Netflix when it first came out. I liked it a lot. I rewatched it, didn't like it as much. When
mhm.
you know what's gonna happen, it's one of those movies where there are some movies that are better on the second watch. There are some movies that are a little worse on the second watch. I think Bullet Train is one of those movies in the latter. Um, I do wish I put Bullet Train at 5 because I don't know. I don't know why I didn't put it at 5. I just don't know. I should have figured that there's not many like bad Brad Pitt movies. Like
No.
usually he picks movies that maybe aren't popular in the moment, but usually they end up like pretty beloved. I'm pretty mad, but that's gonna make for a
That's
great.
not a bad
That's gonna make
list
for a
though.
great TikTok though.
It
That will make for
is.
a great TikTok later. So I'm excited. Thank you for doing that for me.
Yeah,
I
of
really
course.
appreciate that. That was really fun. Um, do you have any more thoughts on F1 the movie?
Yeah, I have one more. So you talked a little bit about it, how you kind of expected it, but when I was watching the movie first, I honestly had I there's no thought in my mind that said that Sonny was gonna win the race. I was so dead
Okay.
set on it was either gonna be JP or for some reason they were gonna lose and they were gonna find a way to get their team back in the end and like some sort of money scheme that they had or some way with the managers and stuff. But I was so set in like the Cars 3 type of play on it where,
Yes,
McQueen
I've heard
switched to
that a
kind of
lot.
coaching. Yeah, so that's I was talking to my friends about it after, and I don't know, like they also kind of agree with it, and I feel like, you know, it's a toss up because like if they wanted to follow like the general storyline, they'll have the old timer take the back seat and direct the newcomer into their first win to save the movie. But I think they kind of went like a little curveball to some people, especially for me, because I was so set on the fact that JP was going to win it. Also, because kind of because of the foreshadowing. I don't know who he was racing against when I think it might have been Verstappen when he crashed. I
Hmm.
don't I don't know
I
because
thought it
like
was. Oh, I don't know.
it was either Verstappen or it's probably Hamilton again. Um, but I feel like like that could have added to like the back and forth of it. JP gets him the second time. Um, but I think in my opinion one of the best scenes in the movie, for no reason besides kind of like the purpose of it, was when JP was practicing by himself and he was running the simulation and he was rerunning the race that he lost and the one that he crashed on. And he kind of
Yeah.
played it out where if he didn't pass him in the corner or try and overtake him in the corner, if he just waited to the straight at the end to try and overtake him and realized that he would have beat him, it kind of just shows the realization of how like he can trust Sonny and stuff. I feel like that was like one of the better scenes in the movie. So
I thought your favorite scene was going to be when Brad Pitt was taking an ice bath and he was like half naked.
yeah, that was an interesting scene, and that was pretty early on too. So
Did your girlfriend like that scene? Or did I don't know if you even
she
saw it there.
no, I watched it with my friends. She didn't watch it. So
Okay, good. Do not show her that movie. She may break up with you and try to get with Brad Pitt. That's a really good point. I think that scene where Joshua Pierce is replaying that over and over again. That's a really good point. There's a lot of good moments in this movie that kind of there's no dialogue and you're just kind of watching these guys just practice and do different things, and I think it just works. I think all the training scenes where you have Brad Pitt, he's running the track, and then eventually he's with two people from the staff, and then he has a whole
yeah, that
everybody,
was
and then
good.
Joshua Pierce has everybody from everyone in the garage. I think that's nice. I like when like teams come together in movies. I like when like groups of people slowly come together and really like bond. I think that stuff always works for me. I have a soft spot for that. Um, I think that's a great point. I love Brad Pitt. This is not his best performance, but this is not a movie where Brad Pitt needs to do a lot of acting, though.
No,
This is a movie where you need to focus on the racing, and Brad Pitt did a great job. Obviously, that was all practically done. Him and Josh and Damson Idris were driving race cars at like 160 miles an hour.
I know.
My car, I don't think. I think if I went above like 85 in my Ford Explorer, the engine would just explode. So I don't even know what that would be like. But yeah, I think the one scene where Brad Pitt is just acting his ass off is when he's on the balcony with I can't remember the character's name, played by Kerry Condon, the mechanic. They're on the balcony and he's talking about his crash, and it's right before the Las Vegas race, and he's talking
Yeah.
about his crash, and then he's like, he was talking about how when he drives and he starts flying, and then eventually that comes back, and then
Yes.
in the last race, and then she's like, he's flying, and like I just got goosebumps. I'm like, even the second time, I got goosebumps just watching that scene. I'm like, God damn,
I
Brad
know.
Pitt did act his ass off in that scene. Um, I have some NBA stuff if you want to hop into that. If unless you have any thoughts on any last thoughts on F1.
Yeah, I just think that like F1 in general is such like an untouched gem as it is right now for like movies or TV show in general. It's such an interesting sport because it's like NASCAR with like a way more like technical based um thing of it. Like NASCAR, like you can go and like you can have rub and racing, like you can just bump into guys, but like F1 is so technical and it's so like interesting and it's such more of like a team sport. And I think
Yeah,
that'd be great for all movies and stuff like that. So I hope to see more, you know, whether that's like a similar cast what they had with the F1 too, maybe, but also like some sort of like a TV show could be interesting where they go through a whole season. But I feel like that's like such a thing that could be coming soon, hopefully. So.
I agree. And this will be my last point about F1. First, there is a movie, another F1 movie that came out about a decade ago called Rush. Not sure if you've heard of it. It's pretty
I've
under the
heard of
radar.
it, yeah.
If you like F1, it's kind of similar. There's some different pieces to it, but if you, I would check that out. And obviously, there's Drive to Survive on Netflix. But you're right, F1 and kind of racing in general, because there's only so much you can do with racing. I think in movies is sort of untapped. I think F1 is growing to the point where we're going to get more of that stuff. Um,
Mhm.
there's not many untouched sports left now, so I will raise you a volleyball movie. That is something we haven't gotten since the original Top Gun, where there's a
Mhm.
volleyball beach scene, and then they had
Yeah.
Point Break in the '90s, which wasn't that good. But I think we're due for a volleyball movie, and I don't know what it would be like. I don't have like a firm idea, but I raised the idea to any movie studio, which I know Apple's listening right now, and they're looking for the next great idea. I will act, direct, produce, and write any volleyball movie that you want me to.
I'll star in it too. So.
That's that's what I like to hear. That's what I want. That's what we want from our interns. To shift gears, no pun intended, to some NBA stuff. See what I did there?
I like
Um,
that.
I have some notes on 5 NBA teams, and obviously we're a little bit into the offseason. Free agency has begun. Trades are official now. Let's start with the Lakers. And I know everyone's tired of hearing about the Lakers, but they've done some interesting things. The most notable thing is bringing in DeAndre Ayton to the Lakers. What do you think about DeAndre Ayton going to the Lakers? What do you think the defense will look like next season?
Defensively, I don't think it's not gonna be as much of a hell as people think. You know, DeAndre Ayton, like he's had his prime, and maybe he can revive that with the Lakers. But you know, when he was with the Suns, like he looked like he had a promising future, and that kind of all went away with the Kevin Durant trade. But you know, I'm interested to see what can happen with him, and I think you know his best time was with the Suns. And who was his main point guard? Chris Paul. And who do the Lakers have? Luka Doncic. And there's
Yeah.
like the playmaking ability is there for Luka when it comes to the comparison with Chris Paul, if not more right now when Chris Paul was with the Suns. But like this is a time for DeAndre Ayton to kind of bring us back his career. You know, I don't know how much you're gonna get defensively. That's an effort thing. But offensively, he needs to be the type of like rim running, lob catching guy that they need because they have not had that. And I've seen like I saw like a thing where it like showed the Lakers centers since like LeBron's gotten there, and it's not good because you cannot. Anthony Davis is not a center; he's a power
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
Like I mean, he can go and play the five, but your team's not going to be as competitive as it can be if you put him at the five. So, you know, it's good that they got him, but they need more. They need another. They need some real presence in the paint. I don't know where you're going to get that, but they got to make some sort of a move because you know Braun's time is waning and he wants to compete. So
I think you're right. I don't think Ayton's the answer at all. I really liked Ayton, especially with Phoenix. I think when the draft in 2018 was rolling around, I still remember it. And Dallas ended up getting Luka in the end, which was obviously the great player of the draft. Ayton was still the guy that everyone wanted. Like when Phoenix got the pick, everyone thought Phoenix won the draft immediately. Like
yeah,
obviously you think so when you win the first pick, but like Ayton looked really solid, and I don't really know what happened with him. I thought he was going to be an awesome player, and with LeBron thing, I think you raise a good point, and it kind of shifts into the next Lakers topic. My second half of the Lakers piece I have. Do you think there's any validity to these LeBron trade rumors or release rumors? Because there's the whole Cleveland thing, there's a Dallas thing, which I don't believe in at all. I think the Cleveland thing, maybe there's something there, but I don't know if you believe in any of this LeBron rumor nonsense.
I take it as the same way I take stuff when it comes to Giannis. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's more tough when it comes to Giannis because he's in his prime and his value is so much higher. Whereas like LeBron, like you could probably get away with getting LeBron for a lot less than you can for Giannis, realistically. Um, age plays a factor in that, but I don't know. I don't know where he could go to where they could give up stuff as much as it takes to get LeBron and still contend. Like there are very few teams like you think about it. Um, the Rockets were blessed to have the deal that they had, and their young talent proves it. But they can still compete, and they just got a superstar in trade because they have so much good talent. But there are not many teams that can do that. So
Yeah.
for LeBron to compete, like he has like in my opinion, a select few teams that could give up enough to get LeBron and still compete with LeBron. So like that's the thing that people have to think about. Like you can't just be like the Celtics and give up Sam Hauser and JD Davidson and get LeBron to compete. Like that's not gonna happen. Like you'd have to give up like one of your core pieces. And teams that are deep, like you have, the
Well, what
Cavs are
core
good.
pieces do the Celtics have? What core pieces do they have anymore?
Not many now, but you got Derek
Yeah, I know
White,
what you're
Jason
saying.
Tatum, Jalen Brown.
Yeah.
But they're like, in my opinion, they're like, I give you three teams that could make the LeBron trade and still compete, and I give you the Mavericks, I give you the Thunder, and I give you the Cavs. The Thunder have enough young talent to where they could chip a couple guys off and get LeBron and compete, and they're the reigning champs. The Cavs got a lot as well. They're deeper than most people think. And then same thing with the Mavericks. The Mavericks have a pretty deep team and they're already pretty good as it is. And I think they could get away with that trade without giving up Kyrie. Mm, definitely could. They definitely should not give up Cooper Flag, obviously,
No.
and probably keep Anthony Davis. They could find a way to package a bunch of guys together and get LeBron to still compete. So
I agree with you. I think the most likely is the Cavs one. I've heard some DeAndre Hunter plus Jared Allen for LeBron, which is if you're the Cavs, you're going all in right now. Like this is it.
yes,
LeBron, there's a good chance he retires at the end of the year. At least that's the rumor. My thing with LeBron is he signed that 1 year contract that's like 50 million. And I just and call me a hater if you want. I don't understand why he's signing a contract that large. I just
I don't
don't.
know either.
This guy's worth like $1 billion. You need to do the Tom Brady thing where you take a huge pay cut on behalf of your team. I know the Lakers didn't really make any moves, and yeah, fine. You can blame it on management. But you're not setting a good precedent with the rest of your team if you're just taking as much money as possible. That money could have gone to some pretty good role players. Not like superstars. This free agency does not have like any superstars to begin with, but that could have definitely helped your bench a lot, and that's what you need. You don't need a third star if you're the Lakers. Luka and LeBron can do pretty much everything you want on the court except maybe defense, which is obviously a big part, but that's where you go get your role players who can do those things for you. And I think that was the big mistake by LeBron. And to shift gears a little bit into the Chicago Bulls, which is the opposite. They have no stars. They are completely a bunch of young guys, except some other pieces. What do you think their overall plan is? They made no offseason moves in this other than the draft. They've held on to Vucevic so far. He's 34. He had a good year, but he's losing value fast. What do you think their goal is for this next season? What do you think they're competing for?
There's a way that the Bulls can find a way to make it into the playoffs with the weakest the East has been in a long time.
Right.
Um, but that shouldn't be their goal. Their goal should be to, they tried to revamp their team around Kobe White, and it didn't really work. Josh Giddey's a good piece. Kobe White's a good piece. Matas Buzelis is a good piece. They got a couple other good guys, but that's not a team that's going to compete. Matas Buzelis can be good, but he needs some time and he needs some good pieces around him. I've seen so many trade packages that deal Kobe White to plenty of other teams, and I think that could be the move. But I would go more for picks than I would for anything else right now if I'm them, because they need to restart again. And Kenny Beecham, probably like the biggest Bulls fan that I know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen him talk good about the Bulls recently because there's nothing good to say about them. It's just I don't know. Like, I don't know what they're doing, but I don't know what they could do at the same time. Like they don't have any pieces that have so much trade value to where they can go get a bunch of picks. They're kind of just in like that such a weird spot where like they're just so. I guess they're just honestly so mid in when it comes to everything. So
I think I think what you said is true, and that's what they should do. But will they do that? Probably not. Their
No.
ownership doesn't seem to care very much. People are still going to go to Bulls games because they're a Chicago basketball team, and they have the history that really is just Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and not much else. I mean, you had players before and after that were good, but nobody really sticks out. I just don't think. I think the Bulls are going to just make the play-in tournament. They'll probably be the 8 seed, get bounced in the first round by who's going to be good this year. I don't know. Let's say Cleveland again. Doesn't matter. They'll get bounced in the first round again. We'll just do the same thing next year until they eventually want to trade Vucevic. I think that's basically what it comes down to. I mean, what are they even doing? I like the Bulls situation is so bad. I think they're in a worse position than the Wizards. I really, really think
Oh,
so.
1000%. 1000%.
Because
I
at least
actually
the Wizards are making
have young
moves
talent.
to
Yeah,
free up cap space too. They're gonna have 60 million next year. That's a lot of money.
I know.
I'm not saying they're going to get a great free agent because I don't think anyone wants to go to Washington in their right mind, but you have McCollum, who has a huge contract that's expiring. Kelly Olynyk, who I didn't even know was still in the league. He just got traded there. He's expiring. You have a bunch of guys with big contracts. Middleton, I think he's expiring. You're going to have so much money if you're Washington. Chicago still has like debts to pay. My first thought is trade Vucevic, and the Lakers don't need a big man anymore. You know who does? Golden State. They
Yeah.
could use a guy who can set screens, shoot the ball a little bit, handle, rebound. These are things you need. Golden State wants to make a run. That's what it seems like to me. Why not go after Vucevic, who kind of matches the core age? He's kind of around that Steph Curry, Draymond Green age. You just lost Kevon Looney. You missed out on DeAndre, and you missed out on Luke Cornett, two guys that I think they should have gotten, but
Yeah.
didn't. I think Vucevic is really all that's left on the market, unless I'm forgetting somebody. Unless I'm forgetting somebody, but I think
No,
Vucevic
you're
would be a
not.
great fit.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on Vucevic overall?
There's nothing there for me to think about him. I don't know. Just like overall the Bulls, like it's honestly it's disappointing to see
It's
like what they
bad.
have. It's really, really bad.
I and speaking of teams that are in really weird spots, the New Orleans Pelicans.
Mm.
Talk about a team that made some really good moves, but I'm still not convinced on them.
Yeah.
They draft Jeremiah Fears, which I loved, and you loved that too. I know we
Yes.
both loved that move for them. They got Derek Queen, aka Dairy Queen. How will they fit with Zion? I don't know how Derek Queen fits with Zion. I'm not really sure about the spacing stuff. They bring in Sadiq Bey and Jordan Poole. They get rid of McCollum, who I think that's a very good move. I think McCollum doesn't really he brings leadership in for sure, but I think just talent wise, I think Poole is probably on a similar level, and Sadiq Bey can space the
Yeah.
floor out. But what is the Pelicans' future? If Zion's not healthy, I mean they trade Ingram already. That's whatever. Probably a dumb move to be honest. I mean that's bad by both teams. But if Zion's not healthy, what are they going to win 35 games? I don't. What direction do you think the New Orleans Pelicans should go in at this point?
I don't know. I'm actually interested in them because in my opinion they had one of the better drafts, maybe one of the best drafts, if not the best draft
I
out of
agree.
all the teams. You know, I love both their picks. But if they can stay healthy, I truthfully think that they can compete. And you know, Zion, like he's shown times through and throughout where he can be that guy that they need, but he just needs to play. If he can play and they get all their guys on the same page, I like what they're doing. I think that their young talent is there. I think that they have good pieces overall, but I still think there's room to grow. One guy on their team that I like a lot, rookie last year, Yves Messi. He
Yeah.
was a center for them. He actually had a very good rookie season. I believe he was all rookie second team. That's another good piece you could have. In my opinion, if I'm the Pelicans, I hope for one more good year at Zion. And if you still aren't good, you ship him off and you either go get one elite guy to build around or you get just some other good pieces around you, and I think you can make a run. And that's interesting to say, but you know, give it 3 or 4 years after that Zion trade if they make a good one, and I think they'll be a contender based on like, you know, I love the progression that I see for Jeremiah Fears. I believe he'll be great. Derek Queen, I think he'll have a promising future in the NBA as well. So
I think we have this conversation about Zion every year, though. I mean, not like literally us, but just in general as
in
NBA
general.
fans.
Yes.
Like they put some pieces around him that look good, and then nothing happens. What do they win? Like 35, 38 games last year, something like that,
Yeah,
maybe
I don't
40.
know. It wasn't good.
I didn't watch much New Orleans basketball last year. I'll be honest. Maybe I'm a fake fan for that, but I just feel like I love Zion. He did a lot for like college basketball culture. We've talked about it in the past.
Hmm.
He did a lot for NBA culture. I knew so many people with Zion jerseys when he got drafted, and even the following years when he was starting to really rise up. He was one of those guys I really took a liking to as a player, and I just don't get it. I just don't know. I don't know what he's missing, and I think that if he can finally get healthy, I think this is a great team. That in a West that's super competitive, I think they can upset a team. I don't see why they couldn't. I just think they are really young, but they're gonna have that over a very old Western Conference. Obviously, the Thunder are young, but you have the Lakers who have LeBron that's as old as you can get. The Rockets who have Durant who's as old as you can get. The Warriors are old. Why can't they
Yes,
upset one of those teams?
for sure.
They can just be scrappy, they can be quick, they can be energetic and just upset somebody. I've been waiting for this New Orleans team to happen, and it just hasn't yet. And the question is, and I agree, they could make a Zion move. Who wants Zion, though, at this point? Who? Like, what team would actually want to trade for Zion? And I'm not saying you need to come with a package off the top of your head, but if you have
Yeah,
any ideas for a team that'd be interested, I'd love to hear it, because I don't even know. I haven't heard anything good about Zion from the people I listen to and the people I read from.
hmm,
Like, I'm trying to think, and if you have any, please feel free to chime in. But I can't think of a team that would actually want to take on the headache that comes with and the injury thing. And I think Zion's a great player when he's healthy.
teams that like the first team that I think of that kind of lacks in that position or might lack soon, um, that might be willing to. The Kings pop up in my head.
Okay. They would be desperate enough.
Yeah, they would be. Um,
Uh,
I don't know. In some way, if I could see some weird way where the Wizards do that. The Wizards, like a team as young as they are, decides to make a move where they ship a couple guys over there, and they have all the other guys developing, and they put Zion in there, and maybe he has a spark to play now in a different sense, in a different spot with a bunch of hungry young guys. Those are the two teams I pop up, and I don't know who else would. You know, a
can I
lot of
give you
teams are already
Brooklyn?
set in that position. Brooklyn's another one as well, but I don't know what is Brooklyn gonna give up. They're in like a they drafted 5 point guards in the draft, so I don't I don't know what you're
There
gonna
you
get with
go.
that.
You trade three of them. That's your
Oh,
move, I
that was
guess.
hard. That was really hard to see. Oh my
You know
God.
what they should have done is they should have just capitalized on the draft picks they had pre-draft and just done the Zion thing and just see what happens. They drafted 5 point guards anyway. What do you have to lose? Like I
Mm.
don't. I mean, what are they competing for anyway? Who do they have anymore? I don't even really know, to be
And
honest.
you were
I'm not.
talking about teams that were in awful positions earlier, and I saw something
Brooklyn's
about it.
bad.
Brooklyn's bad, but do you know who's also awful? The Raptors. Their
Oh, that's
starting
rough.
lineup, the contracts I saw, oh my God, like actually just it hurt to see it. Like their starting five contracts are some of the worst in the NBA. Why is Emmanuel Quickly making as much money as he is? I promise you, he's not that good. Like that one hurt
Did you
just
see
as much
Jakob
as the other
Poeltl?
ones.
He got
Yeah.
an
Oh my
extension.
gosh, how many years was that? Was that four? I think that was 4 years, 104 mil. I think he might be getting paid similar to Miles Turner. So just put that in perspective.
Oh
Miles
God.
Turner, who was close to being an NBA champion.
Remember, they wouldn't do the Kevin Durant
Kevin
trade because
Durant
they
trade
need to
because of
keep Jakob Poeltl.
oh gosh. Yeah, I take it back. Raptors might be worse than all the other teams.
They need to keep
But
Jakob Poeltl.
oh my gosh.
I'm dead.
One team that I think to pivot to a team that's had a really good offseason are the Hawks though. I've been
Yes.
really happy with the Hawks. You know, they are going to be a top 3 seed. The question is the defense, but the
Sure.
answer is the offense. Their offense, if they
Mm.
play to their ability, I wholeheartedly think that they can be a top 5 offense in the NBA. Trey Young, when he's playing his best basketball, is like he's a legit. He could be top five point guard in the NBA,
Sure.
and now he has like some legit wings and some legit bigs around him. I like Double O Oneke Onkongwu. He's great. Kristaps, if he gives you give him like 60 games, he's gonna help out a lot. And all their wings are phenomenal. I'm very very interested in seeing what they're gonna do.
I think I love Dyson Daniels. First of all, I'm a huge fan
Mm,
I'm a huge fan of guards that can shoot the ball a little bit and play great defense.
yes.
Those guys are just some of my favorite players to have. It reminds me a lot of when Dallas, before we traded him for some reason, when we had Quentin Grimes. I loved Quentin Grimes so much. He was
Mm,
one of my
yeah.
favorite guys on Dallas. He reminds me a little bit. Dyson is a better and slightly younger Quentin Grimes, and that's what I like about him.
Hmm.
Yeah, still Jalen Johnson is going to be healthy. And you're right, Trey Young, when he's healthy and when he's all good to go, he's lights out. He averaged 24 and 11 last year, led the league in assists, and nobody really talks about it. Um, his efficiency was a little low compared to what you'd want out of your number one guy, but I think I think they finally got rid of Capella, which they should have done like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because when they first drafted Okongwu, I loved Okongwu when he came in, and I thought he
Yep.
was super talented big man. And they kept Capella around and
You know
just
Hills.
took away his progression. I don't and yeah, now he's gone, but it's like I don't know. I don't really understand that. And I think it's gonna be good for him to get a lot of playing time because Okongwu didn't even break 30 minutes a game last year, and you want your starting big man to get more than that.
Yeah.
But I think Porzingis is gonna be interesting. But that's the question, right? Will he be healthy?
Yeah.
And
Um.
like I don't know. I think he's healthy right now, as far as I'm aware. I think he's like solid, and I think he's gonna play and whatever. But when next year comes around and the Hawks want to make a deep run, which I think they can, I don't have any reason to doubt it.
Yeah.
Will Porzingis be ready for that? And that's the question on my mind. I guess is what I'm trying to ask you
Yeah.
is
I think.
someone who you were with Porzingis pretty closely when he was with Boston. You watched him really closely. So what do you think?
Yeah. I don't know. I think he wants it. I think he wants it enough, but I think he's got to build himself up in the regular season more than he has. I think his better seasons he's played most in the regular season, and that's kind of built him up to prepare himself for the off season for the playoffs. But he had like apparently he had like some severe illness that he was playing through the end of the playoffs last year, and people were very frustrated with like the performances that he had. But I
Yeah,
think like he had like some like very rare and severe illness that would like he would like apparently like, he would get exhausted after playing for like less than 5 minutes, and like that was like something that was really bad. And I think that kind of was a reason why. And I'm assuming, like you said, he's probably healthy by now. But I think he's got to build himself up and play enough games in the regular season to where he's fit to play in the playoffs. And I feel like that would be like a key reason why. And I trust their wings between like Ricochet and all those other guys they have to
oh
make
yeah, Reese. I
impacts.
forgot about him.
I know, like, see, like that's like you don't even realize that. And then they also brought in Nikhil Alexander Walker. Like,
Oh my
um,
God, they did.
yes, like
I forgot about
they
that.
they're
Wow.
they're they're
Okay.
gonna be a deep, good team. So that's just gonna be like they're gonna be good next year, and especially in a very weak Eastern Conference, they're definitely gonna be title contenders just because of that.
I agree, and I didn't know about the Porzingis illness thing. I saw him again. I don't mean to flex, but I did go to an NBA playoff game and I had really good seats. Porzingis
Yep.
was really bad. This was the legendary Luke Cornett game where it felt like he had like 40 points and 20 blocks when he had like 10 points and 8 blocks, but whatever. Um, Porzingis looked bad, and me and my friends were just clowning him basically the entire time because he just couldn't rebound. He wasn't rim protecting very well. And then I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm a guy. We are in the special situation with Porzingis where we both had him on our teams.
Yes.
We've both seen what he can do, and I'm still not fully convinced. That's fine. He was sick. That sucks. I get it. He played through it. That's great. He's also injured all the time, and I think Boston still could have won their title without him. And I do believe that. And I think trading for him gave them more issues because obviously the second apron thing, and now they were so far over the cap, they just had to trade him for nothing, basically, it felt like. But what happens with Atlanta this year, even if he's hurt, I still think they can compete in the East because that's how bad
Hmm.
the East is. Like, it just,
for
To me, that's
sure.
just how it feels. And when I look at the roster and when I really think about it, I'm like, there's no reason these guys can't make the conference finals at least again.
Hmm.
And it's been a few years since they've made the conference finals. I'm sure you remember. I think this is the year, if any, where they can go on an Indiana Pacers type of run where nobody really expects them to win early on, and then all of a sudden they're in the Eastern Conference Finals in a Game 7. Um, to switch gears a little bit to another team that has an injury-prone big man who we question if they will be ready, the Dallas Mavericks. Recently, two interesting things have happened with them. Obviously, there's the D'Angelo Russell signing, which I don't like, and I wish we got Chris Paul instead. Even though Chris Paul is about to retire, I think Chris Paul would have been a better interim point guard just in the meantime while we're trying to build up Cooper and this stuff's happening with Kyrie. And then Kyrie didn't really say if he'd be ready for the playoffs, assuming we make it, which we will, but assuming we make it. What is your take on D'Angelo Russell signing with Dallas first?
I actually like that signing, and I posted that signing on my other page, and I was
Mm,
talking to a couple guys in the comment section of the TikTok that I posted for that, and one of the guys that I know and I'm friends with, he said that he didn't like that, and he thought it was a bad move for Dallas, and he didn't know what they were doing. But me and one of my other close friends, we both thought that that was actually a very good signing, and I think that D'Angelo Russell, when he's hot, he's going to be helpful. And people will look at him when he played for the Lakers and saw the inefficiency and the poor performances that he had there. But I truthfully think that he can hold it down for Kyrie when he's gone. And they have another guard. I believe he's still there. He filled in last season at the end. I don't remember his name, but he was also like he kind of seemed like a Kyrie-esque type of player, and he like kind of filled that role very well. So I'm not really worried about it because of the fact that their big man situation is going to be so good. And throughout all this, no one's really talked about the fact that they still have Cooper Flag too. Like
yeah.
Cooper Flag is going to be that guy. I think the minute he gets on the court for them, and I'm really really excited to see how he does there. And I think he's in a great spot as well, and he's playing for a great team, as in your Dallas Mavericks. So, I if I were you, I'd be very excited with the future of that team. But I think their window is very small right now for
Yeah.
how much they have to win. So, but I think they have the pieces to get it done.
Are you referring to Brandon Williams or are you referring to Dante Exum as that point guard you're
Brandon
saying?
Williams, Brandon
Okay.
Williams.
Okay. Yeah. Dante Exum we actually just re-signed, and I think
Yep,
that's a great move. I love Dante Exum a lot.
me too.
Brandon Williams is very good too. 100%. He's a young guy. I think he's going to his third year. Yeah, definitely a good move. And I do like Flag a lot. Obviously, I'm not trying to hate on Flag. I think he's going to be extremely talented. I'm very excited to see what he can do. Um, that jersey should come in any day now. My Cooper Flag jersey. I'm excited to wear that. Once I get it, you will see it. I will be wearing it on the
Perfect.
podcast every single day until the season begins. Um, my other thing, this is probably the more I would say this is the most interesting team to talk about out of all the teams to talk about, which is a bold take probably, but Utah. First of
Hmm.
all, they make the Ace Bailey they draft Ace Bailey, which I called. I just want to say I did call that
Yep.
the pre-draft. I did call that. They trade John Collins, Jordan Clarkson's gone, and Colin Sexton's gone, and people are pretty upset about it. Because they all they got back was like Nurkic and Kevin Love, not Gordon Hayward, Kevin Love, and I pose the fact that John Collins and Clarkson missed a ton of time last year, despite playing well in the games they did play. John Collins played 40 games last year. After December 21st, he played 14 games in like 3 months. That's pretty low. Jordan Clarkson played 37 games last year. He's 32, and he cannot guard. He's probably good as your eighth man, maybe your ninth man. And I do agree, Colin Sexton, that trade was a pretty big miss. I do like
Horrible.
Sexton. I think he's worth something, and he was pretty healthy last year. What is your take on Utah's situation altogether? They still have Markkanen, they have Kessler, they have Flipowski, they have obviously Ace Bailey now. He played well, I think, at the summer league. If I get that right, I don't really
Yes.
follow the summer league closely, but I've heard he played well.
Yeah.
What is your take on Utah as a whole?
Their trades were awful. Um, you know, the John
I mean, how
Collins
much
one was
value
pretty
does John
fresh.
Collins have, though? How much value does he have at this point where he's missing half the season every year? And Jordan Clarkson's 32. How much value do these
What did
guys
they
have?
what did they receive in that trade?
Is that,
Let
am I
me
thinking of the Nurkic trade where
the Nurkic trade. That one really frustrated me actually.
I
That one.
understand? I don't think Nurkic is very good either, and I agree with that.
Um. So the Jazz got Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a 2027 second from the Clippers. That's what Utah got in that trade for
That's the
John
trade.
Collins.
Okay,
So
sure.
actually, that one I'm not actually that mad about. That one's not a bad one. The Oh my God, but
It's a
the
salary
Nurkic
dump.
trade,
It is a salary dump.
it is a
That's all
salary
that
dump.
one
But the
is.
Nurkic trade, that one was so
That's a bad
aggravating to
trade.
me. Like I
Yeah,
don't I don't I don't get that one, and that was bad. But
I agree.
um,
Because
to
Nurkic just
speak
isn't
to it
good. I
though,
agree with that.
I think that you know Ace Bailey can work out for them if he can just like put his ego aside and just play basketball. He shot 7 for 14 last night from the field, 18 points. Great night for him.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, Sensabaugh next to him, they combined for 55 points. So Sensabaugh had a really good night as well. Another young player for Utah. Walter Clayton, your guy from Florida, he's also had some pretty good summer league
Yeah.
games, and I think he'll definitely find a way to fit in that roster. But it's just going to be interesting. They're definitely not going to compete in the West. There's no way they
No.
could. But they have the pieces where they can kind of just sit where they are right now, let their team develop, and they can make a run in like five years time. You gotta be patient as a Jazz fan. If they can just, you know, don't like the 76ers, but trust the process with their lineup, I think that they can make something happen. I think that they got some good guys. It's all about who's going to be that guy for them. And Ace Bailey could be, but he needs to play basketball. He needs to stop worrying about everything else if he wants to be that guy for a team. So that's just my take on them.
I think we saw this coming when we talked about the draft, obviously the pre-draft, and I talked about Ace Bailey likely going to Utah, which ended up happening.
Yep.
And we both kind of knew that he was going to be upset about going there. And I listen. I agree. The Nurkic trade is bad. They have two very talented big men. They don't need Nurkic, who's just worse than both of those guys. They have Kyle Filipowski's pretty good, and Kessler's great.
Yep.
Um, but losing John Collins isn't really anything. It's a salary dump. He's not that good. You don't need him really. You have guys like Markkanen and who can do better things than what he does. And it sounds very simple, that trade, but it is that simple. Like you
Yeah.
don't need him. I don't really know why the Clippers want him. I'm still kind of figuring that out. Like if it's, I understand they still want to compete because they don't own their picks. I get that, but like I don't know why
I
they
don't
want
know.
John Collins specifically.
I don't know why they give up Norman Powell. That one actually
That's
kind
a
of
bad
hurt.
move. I
I
love
actually
Norm Powell.
Norman Powell was so good last year. He's border. I don't know if you know, but he's borderline All Star.
Yeah, he
That's
was.
that's how good. That's how good he was last season. And I don't know. I don't know what the Heat have. The Heat could use him pretty well as well, especially in a pretty weak East. But um, the Clippers lost that trade 1,000% between those three teams. The Heat and the Jazz definitely won it over them, but the Clippers, I don't know what you're gonna get from John Collins. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that whole entire Clippers team because I think Norman Powell was a perfect piece to pair along. They kind of had like a core four between Harden, Powell, Kawhi, and Zubats. But
Sure.
what are you gonna do? You're gonna slot Kawhi down to the three now and put Collins in at the four and Zubats at the five. I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna work out. So
That's if Collins plays.
that exactly,
You know,
yeah. It's a weird trade, but it was good in the end for salary wise. I'd say.
that's the thing with John Collins. He would play a game. He'd play well. He'd have like 18 and 10, and then he
Yeah.
just missed 5 games. And it's just like, what's going on? And then he played another game. He played well, and then he just missed 8 games. And it's like, what? Well, what is going on? That's why Ainge doesn't want to pay guys that don't play. I get it, but it's like I don't know where the Clippers are going, but I think we can wrap it up for today. But if you have any last second thoughts, any things you want to shout out before we wrap up for today, you have the floor.
Yeah. We told everybody to go watch the F1 movie last time, but I would say also go check out the Jurassic World movie.
I heard it's doing
That
well.
that should be. I think that I haven't seen it yet, but I'm really excited to as a Jurassic fan in general. But it just seems like a much scarier movie compared to previous Jurassic movies that have come out. So I would go see that as well to follow up watching the F1 movie, and also check out Superman as that's another good movie that's in theaters right now. But overall, thanks for having me on. It was a great episode. So
Of course, Carter, you're welcome anytime. And just to be clear about Jurassic World, because I think it's stealing F1's thunder a little bit.
mhm.
I was looking at the numbers last night, so maybe this is a little different now. And it's opening 3-day weekend, not including because it did come out on last Wednesday. And from last Wednesday to last Sunday, it made $140 million in America alone, which is a lot of money.
That's a
And then
lot.
its 3-day weekend, it made $91 million, which is still a
Mm,
lot, but
yeah.
it's already making more money than F1. And I didn't know that people really love Jurassic World. I haven't seen it yet, to be honest with you. And I wasn't
Have you
really
seen the
planning on it,
previous
but
movies? Have you seen like the previous Jurassic movies
I saw
much or
the
no?
first Jurassic World, and I saw Jurassic Park, obviously. But I have
Yeah.
not. I think these are new characters, though, so I don't know how much of the
Yeah,
old stuff I
completely
need to know
new.
about.
I think it's like one or two lapovers, but basically all new besides that.
So yeah, I guess definitely go support your local theater, watch Jurassic World. Although I would recommend seeing Superman because Superman is probably going to be awesome. Like I would just guess. I mean, it's a Superman movie. Usually they're pretty good whenever we get something Superman related. So, yeah, go check that out. And Carter, thank you again for joining me today, and to all the listeners, all the watchers at home. Thank you all for tuning in. I have been your host, Connor Lewis, signing off.